There is a quiet line inside every person. It is the line between who you truly are and what the world keeps trying to turn you into. Most people cross that line slowly. They do not notice it at first. They laugh when they are disrespected. They agree with things they do not believe. They say, "It's fine," when it is not fine, because they do not want to create tension. And little by little, they begin living for everyone else's comfort instead of their own dignity. This is how a person lowers himself without realizing it. Not through one dramatic act, but through small betrayals repeated over time. You stay silent when your soul knows you should speak. You shrink so others will not feel uncomfortable. You explain yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. You chase approval from those who give you only crumbs of respect. And one day, you look in the mirror and wonder why you feel invisible. Marcus Aurelius once observed that people often love themselves more than others, yet care more about other people's opinions than their own. That is the contradiction at the heart of modern weakness. We say we value ourselves, but we hand our peace to every opinion, every rejection, every judgment, every person who may not even be worthy of our attention. We claim to want respect, but then live as if approval is more important than self-respect. The Stoic path is not about arrogance. It is not about becoming cold, rude, or untouchable. It is about becoming rooted. Rooted in your values. Rooted in your standards. Rooted in the kind of inner dignity that does not collapse every time someone disagrees with you. A person who never lowers himself is not someone who dominates others. He is someone who refuses to abandon himself. Being important in life does not mean being famous, rich, or admired by everyone. It means you matter to yourself first. It means you have an inner code that you do not break for attention, love, money, or belonging. It means your self-respect has a price, and not everyone can afford access to it. Because the moment you start lowering yourself to be accepted, you teach the world that your dignity is negotiable. The first lesson is this: stop explaining yourself to everyone. One of the quickest ways people lower themselves is by over-explaining their choices, their decisions, their boundaries, and even their dreams. At first, it sounds polite. You tell yourself you are just trying to be understood. But if you are honest, many explanations are not about clarity. They are about permission. You explain because you're afraid someone will judge you. You explain because you want them to approve. You explain because somewhere inside, you believe your decision is not valid unless another person agrees with it. But Stoicism asks a sharper question. Why does everyone need to understand your path before you allow yourself to walk it? Epictetus taught that if you want to be something, you must practice it. If you want to be a writer, write. If you want to be disciplined, act with discipline. If you want to live with dignity, live by your principles. He did not say, explain your dream to every doubtful person until they approve. The Stoic does not wait for the crowd to validate the path. He walks it. Every time you over-explain, you invite people to put your life on trial. You give them room to challenge your motives, question your judgment, and plant doubt in your mind. You turn your life into a courtroom, and suddenly everyone becomes a judge. But your life is not a case that must be defended before people who are not even responsible for living it. This does not mean you never clarify anything. There are moments when explanation is necessary, especially with people who matter, people who listen with honesty, people who are connected to the decision. But not everyone deserves access to your reasoning. Not everyone deserves the full map of your inner world. And not every opinion deserves a response. The more grounded you become, the less you feel the need to justify yourself. You can say no without writing a speech. You can choose a new path without begging for understanding. You can leave a situation without proving that you were right to leave. You can hold a boundary without turning it into a debate. That is not disrespect. That is self-command. Look at people who carry quiet confidence. They do not explain every move. They act from values, and their actions create the evidence. They are not desperate to convince everyone that they are serious. They simply become serious. They do not waste energy trying to make every person understand their direction. They use that energy to keep moving. So the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself to someone who does not truly need an explanation, pause. Ask yourself, is this person's understanding necessary for me to move forward? If the answer is no, Let silence do its work. Speak clearly when needed, but do not pour your energy into defending your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. Your self-respect grows every time you stop asking for permission to be who you are. It grows when you trust your own judgment. It grows when your actions are guided by principle, not by fear of disapproval. And once your self-respect grows, your presence changes. You stop shrinking. You stop performing. You stop explaining your worth and start living it. Never lower yourself by begging the world to approve of your direction. Know your values. Make your choice. Walk with quiet certainty. Let people think what they want. Their opinion may be loud, but it is not your master. And in the next part, we will go deeper into one of the most dangerous ways people betray their dignity: competing for someone's attention. One of the fastest ways to lower yourself is to compete for someone's attention. You begin doing more, giving more, waiting more, proving more, not because it serves your growth, but because you want to be noticed. You want to be chosen. You want someone to finally look at you and confirm that you matter. And without realizing it, you place your dignity in their hands. This can happen anywhere. In a relationship, you keep trying to earn warmth from someone who gives you distance. In a friendship, you keep reaching out to someone who only remembers you when they need something. In work, you overextend yourself just to be recognized by people who would replace you without hesitation. The setting changes, but the pattern is the same. You are trading self-respect for attention. The painful truth is this: when you compete for someone's attention, you silently tell them their approval is more valuable than your peace. You teach them that they can give you less and still keep you trying. You teach them that a small response, a small compliment, a small sign of interest is enough to make you abandon your own standard. And once you create that dynamic, it becomes hard to be respected, because you have already placed yourself beneath the prize you are chasing. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed by the color of its thoughts. If your thoughts are constantly wrapped around, how do I make them notice me? How do I prove I am enough? How do I get them to choose me? Then your actions will begin to reflect desperation. You may hide it behind kindness, loyalty, humor, favors, or patience, but the energy is still there, and people can feel when your presence is asking for validation. Real respect cannot be forced. If someone sees your value, they do not need to be manipulated into treating you with care. If they want to be present, you will not have to beg them into consistency. If they respect you, you will not have to compete with everyone and everything for basic attention. What is genuine does not require you to abandon your dignity just to keep it alive. The Stoic response is simple. Remove yourself from the competition. Do not enter a race where the prize is someone's inconsistent approval. Do not stand in line to be chosen by someone who treats your presence as optional. Do not make yourself smaller just to fit into the narrow space they give you. If you must fight to be valued, the connection is already teaching you the wrong lesson. This does not mean becoming cold or bitter. It means becoming centered. You can care about someone without chasing them. You can respect someone without begging for their focus. You can wish someone well without making their attention the measure of your worth. The Stoic does not punish people for not choosing him. He simply stops lowering himself to be chosen. There is a deep freedom in this. Instead of asking, how do I get their attention? You begin asking, do I even want the attention of someone who makes me feel invisible? Instead of asking, what more can I do to prove myself? You ask, why am I trying to prove my value to someone who benefits from pretending not to see it? These questions bring dignity back into the room. Epictetus taught that if you want to improve, you must be willing to be misunderstood, even thought foolish by others. That means you must become strong enough to let people overlook you while you keep building yourself. The right people will not require performance to recognize your value, and the wrong people will never be satisfied, no matter how much you perform. Attention is cheap. Respect is costly. Attention can be given for a moment and taken back just as quickly. Respect is built through how you carry yourself, what you tolerate, what you refuse, and whether your actions show that you know your own worth. If you chase attention, you may receive crumbs. But if you protect your dignity, you become someone people cannot easily dismiss. Think of the most grounded people you know. They are not constantly trying to be seen. They are focused on their mission, their discipline, their values, their own growth. They do not orbit around someone else's approval. And because of that, their presence becomes stronger. People are drawn to those who are not desperate to be chosen, because self-respect has a gravity that neediness never will. So stop competing. Stop trying to win a place in someone's mind when you are losing your place in your own life. Stop measuring your value by how quickly someone responds, how often they praise you, or how much they include you. You are not an audition. You are not a backup option. You are not a person who must constantly prove that he deserves basic respect. When you stop chasing attention, some people may notice. They may wonder why you are no longer reaching, explaining, overgiving, or trying so hard. Let them wonder. Your silence is not a tactic. It is a return to self-respect. You are no longer asking, "Please see me." You are living from the deeper truth. I see myself, and that is where my dignity begins. The world may overlook you for a while. Let it. Keep building. Keep improving. Keep becoming the kind of person whose worth is not dependent on being recognized by every eye in the room. Importance is not granted by other people's attention. It is claimed first in your own mind, then proven through the way you live. And in the next part, we will go deeper into another powerful Stoic lesson, learning to walk away without warning when respect is no longer on the table. One of the strongest things you can learn is how to walk away without warning when respect is no longer on the table. Most people think strength means fighting harder, explaining longer, proving themselves louder, or giving one final speech so the other person finally understands. But sometimes the most powerful response is not another argument. It is quiet action. You lower yourself when you stay too long in places that keep diminishing you. You stay because you hope they will change. You stay because you want them to finally see your value. You stay because you do not want to look like you gave up. But there is a point where staying is no longer loyalty. It becomes self-betrayal. It becomes the habit of sacrificing your peace to preserve a connection that no longer honors you. The Stoic does not cling to environments that corrupt his character. He understands that not everything deserves endless negotiation. If a person repeatedly shows you disrespect, inconsistency, manipulation, or indifference, believe the pattern. Do not keep asking reality to explain itself again. Do not keep waiting for someone to become what they have never consistently chosen to be. Walking away without warning does not mean being cruel. It does not mean cutting people off impulsively over one mistake. Wisdom knows the difference between a human error and a repeated pattern. But when the pattern is clear, when the disrespect has been shown again and again, when your peace has been traded too many times for the hope that they might change, there comes a moment when explanation becomes unnecessary. Why without warning? Because sometimes a warning only gives people time to perform. They promise change. They say the right words. They behave differently for a little while because they sense they are losing access to you. But if the change is only a reaction to your leaving, not a reflection of their character, the old pattern will return. You do not need another temporary performance. You need peace. There is dignity in leaving quietly. No begging, no dramatic speech, no final attempt to convince someone to value what they already had access to. You simply remove yourself. You reclaim your space. You stop giving your energy to a place where your worth had to be argued. That silence is not weakness. It is the moment you choose self-respect over emotional negotiation. Stoicism teaches that you cannot control whether someone respects you. You cannot control whether they understand your heart. You cannot control whether they regret how they treated you. But you can control whether you remain available to disrespect. You can control whether you keep standing in a room where your dignity is constantly being reduced. You can control the door you walk through. This applies to relationships, friendships, social circles, and even work. If an environment repeatedly drains you, belittles you, uses you, or pulls you away from your values, you do not need to announce your departure to the whole world. You do not need to make a public case. You do not need to prove that you are right. You simply step out of what is beneath your standard and move toward what strengthens your life. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to become like the person who harmed you." That means you do not need to match disrespect with disrespect. You do not need to mirror immaturity. You do not need to fight chaos with more chaos. The higher response is to remain unlike what injured you, calm, clear, disciplined, and free enough to leave. Walking away changes something inside you. It teaches your mind that you can trust yourself. It proves that you will not abandon your own soul just to keep someone else comfortable. It strengthens the muscle of self-respect. Each time you leave what lowers you, you send a message to yourself. I am not trapped. I am not desperate. I do not need permission to protect my peace. Some people may misunderstand your silence. Let them. Some may call you cold because you no longer explain. Let them. Some may only notice your value after you stop making yourself available. Let them notice from a distance. Your job is not to manage their interpretation. Your job is to live in alignment with your own principles. The more you practice this, the less you cling. You stop forcing your way into places where you are not valued. You stop begging for inclusion from people who treat you like an option. You stop staying in situations that require you to become smaller just to remain accepted. You begin to understand that losing access to disrespect is not a loss. It is freedom. So ask yourself, where have I stayed too long? Where have I kept explaining what my silence should have already said? Where have I mistaken patience for self-abandonment? If the pattern is clear, stop arguing with it. Believe what life has shown you. Walk away with dignity, not bitterness. Leave without becoming cruel. Move without announcing every step. Every time you walk away from what is beneath your standards, you preserve the most valuable thing you have, yourself. And in the next part, we will go deeper into another form of self-respect. Most people ignore protecting your time like it is gold. Protect your time like it is gold, because it is more valuable than gold. Money can be earned again. A position can be regained. A reputation can be rebuilt. But the hour you wasted today will never return. Once it is gone forever. And every time you give your time carelessly to people, habits, and situations that drain you, you lower yourself without even noticing. The Stoics understood that time is not just something you manage. Time is life itself. Seneca wrote that it is not because life is short, but because we waste so much of it. That truth should make you pause. How much of your life has been spent on things you did not choose with intention? How many hours have disappeared into pointless arguments, endless scrolling, shallow conversations, unnecessary guilt, and commitments you accepted only because you were afraid to say no? When you do not value your time, other people will not value it either. They will interrupt you whenever they want. They will expect immediate access. They will ask for your energy without considering what it costs you. They will pull you into their problems, their drama, their needs, and their distractions. And if you always say yes, they will assume your time is cheap because you keep giving it away cheaply. This does not mean you become selfish or unavailable to everyone. It means you become conscious. Every yes is also a no. When you say yes to something meaningless, you may be saying no to your health, your peace, your work, your family, your growth, or the future you keep saying you want. A person who respects himself learns to ask, what is this really costing me? Think about a full day as a sacred account. You are given 86,400 seconds. No more, no less. If those seconds were money, you would not throw them at strangers, distractions, and people who do not respect you. But with time, many people spend recklessly. They give their best hours to noise, then wonder why their life feels empty. The Stoic does not live this way. He knows that time must be directed by values. If your values are discipline, wisdom, health, family, purpose, and peace, then your calendar should reflect them. Your habits should reflect them. Your boundaries should reflect them. If your time is constantly being consumed by things you claim do not matter, then your life is being shaped by what you failed to protect. Marcus Aurelius warned not to live as if you had 10,000 years ahead of you. Death hangs over everyone, not as a reason to panic, but as a reason to live awake. While it is in your power, use the day well. Say what must be said. Do what must be done. Build what matters. Stop giving your best life to things that only leave you weaker. Protecting your time requires the courage to disappoint people. Some will not understand when you become less available. Some will call you distant because you no longer answer every demand. Some will feel offended when you stop treating their urgency as your responsibility. Let them feel what they feel. Your life cannot be built around keeping everyone comfortable while you quietly abandon yourself. This is where boundaries become practical. You do not need a long explanation for every no. You do not need to apologize for protecting your focus. You do not need to be reachable at all times to prove that you care. You can care and still have limits. You can love people and still protect your schedule. You can be generous without giving away the hours you need to become who you are meant to be. Time wasters are not always people. Sometimes they are habits you keep defending. The phone you check without purpose. The argument you replay for hours. The content you consume until your mind feels numb. The gossip that adds nothing. The overthinking that solves nothing. The late-night distraction that steals tomorrow's energy. These things may look small, but they collect. And what they collect into is your life. A person who never lowers himself learns to be selective with attention and time. He does not attend every argument. He does not accept every invitation. He does not make himself endlessly available to people who only take. He does not spend his best mental energy on things that do not deserve even his weakest hour. This is not arrogance. It is stewardship. When you begin protecting your time, your presence gains weight. People feel that you are not careless with yourself. They understand that access to you is not automatic. Your yes becomes more meaningful because it is no longer given out of fear. Your no becomes cleaner because it is grounded in self-respect. And your life begins to feel less scattered because your energy is finally returning to what matters. So before you commit to anything, ask yourself, does this serve the person I am becoming? Does this strengthen my life, my purpose, my character, my peace? Or am I saying yes because I fear rejection, conflict, or being misunderstood? That question alone can save years of your life. Do not lower yourself by being endlessly available for things that pull you away from your own path. Your time is not a public resource. It is the raw material of your destiny. Spend it with intention. Guard it with discipline. Use it on what strengthens you, what aligns with your values, and what brings you closer to the life you respect. Because one day, you will not ask how many people you pleased. You will ask whether you used the life you were given. And in the next part, we will go deeper into the final Stoic lesson. Speak less, mean more, and let your silence carry weight. Speak less, mean more. This is one of the quietest forms of power and also one of the easiest to forget. Many people lower themselves not only by chasing attention or wasting time, but by speaking too much when silence would have carried more strength. They talk to prove they are intelligent. They explain to prove they are right. They fill every empty space because they fear being overlooked. But the more words are used without purpose, the less weight they carry. The Stoics valued restraint because they understood that speech reveals the condition of the soul. A scattered person speaks from impulse. A wounded ego speaks to defend itself. An insecure mind speaks to be approved. But a disciplined person speaks with intention. He does not use words as noise. He uses them as tools. He knows that every sentence should either clarify truth, express virtue, protect dignity, or serve something meaningful. When you speak just to be noticed, you begin performing. When you speak just to prove yourself, you reveal that you are still asking the room for permission to matter. When you speak from anger, you often give away more than you intended. And when you speak without thinking, you may create consequences that silence would have avoided. This is why restraint is not weakness, it is command. Think about the people you naturally respect. They are rarely the ones who dominate every conversation. They are not constantly interrupting, explaining, defending, or trying to make themselves the center of attention. Often, they listen more than they speak. They observe, they wait, and when they finally say something, people lean in because their words are not wasted. Their silence has trained the room to take their speech seriously. This is the kind of presence you build when you stop cheapening your voice. Speaking less does not mean becoming cold or distant. It means becoming precise. It means you no longer give your thoughts away to every person, every argument, every mood, or every emotional trigger. You decide what deserves your voice. You decide when silence is stronger than explanation. You decide when speaking would serve truth and when it would only serve ego. Marcus Aurelius gave a simple filter. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Imagine living by that standard for even one day. How many unnecessary comments would disappear? How many arguments would lose their fuel? How many promises would you stop making just to please people? How many emotional reactions would never escape your mouth because they were not true, not useful, not worthy of your character? Speaking less also protects your dignity. When someone disrespects you, the old impulse may tell you to answer immediately, to defend yourself, to prove that you are not weak. But not every attack deserves your voice. Sometimes silence communicates more authority than 1,000 explanations. It says, I will not lower myself into this. It says, my peace is not available for this performance. It says, you do not get to pull me out of my character. This does not mean avoiding difficult conversations. A Stoic is not afraid of truth. There are moments when you must speak clearly, set a boundary, correct a lie, defend what matters, or say no with firmness. But even then, your words should come from principle, not wounded pride. Speak because truth requires it, not because your ego is desperate to win the moment. The person who speaks with discipline gains control over his own narrative. He does not reveal everything to everyone. He does not share his plans too early with people who will only plant doubt. He does not discuss his wounds with those who would use them carelessly. He does not give unnecessary explanations to people who never earned that access. He understands that part of self-respect is knowing what to keep private. This is important because too much unnecessary speech can make your life feel open to everyone's opinion. You tell too much, explain too much, announce too much, and soon people feel invited to judge every step. But when you become selective, your inner world becomes protected. Your dreams have space to grow before they are criticized. Your boundaries have strength before they are challenged. Your decisions have clarity before they are debated. Silence also gives you time to think. Many people damage their own respect by speaking in the heat of emotion. They promise what they cannot keep. They reveal what they later regret. They attack when they should have paused. They agree when they should have said no. The Stoic pause is powerful because it creates space between impulse and speech. In that space, wisdom can enter. Before you speak, ask yourself 3 questions. Is this true? Is this necessary? Is this aligned with the person I am trying to become? If the answer is no, let the words stay inside. Not every thought needs a voice. Not every feeling needs an audience. Not every opinion needs to be delivered. The ability to hold back is not emptiness. It is discipline. When you speak less and mean more, people begin to feel the difference. Your words become cleaner. Your yes becomes stronger. Your no becomes clearer. Your advice carries more weight because it is not mixed with constant noise. Your presence becomes calmer because you are not always trying to prove something. You stop chasing influence through volume and begin earning it through depth. This is how you stop lowering yourself. You no longer use speech to beg for attention. You no longer explain your worth to people who cannot see it. You no longer waste your voice in rooms where truth is not respected. You let your actions speak where words would only be diluted. You let silence protect what noise would expose too early. So today, practice speaking with purpose. Listen more deeply. Pause before answering. Refuse gossip. Avoid unnecessary explanations. Do not announce every move. Do not defend yourself against every misunderstanding. Let your silence become a boundary, a filter, and a sign of self-command. Speak less, but when you speak, speak with weight. Let your words be few enough to matter and true enough to stand. Because the person who controls his tongue often controls far more than conversation. He controls his energy, his image, his reactions, and his dignity. And in the next part, we will go deeper into how all 5 Stoic lessons connect into one inner code, the kind of code that makes your worth no longer negotiable. All 5 lessons point back to one truth. Your worth must stop being negotiable. The world will always test the price of your self-respect. People will see how much you explain, how far you chase, how long you stay, how freely you give your time, and how carelessly you spend your words. Then, they will treat you according to the standard you keep repeating with your behavior. This is why lowering yourself rarely happens in one obvious moment. It is usually gradual. One small compromise, one swallowed truth, one extra explanation, one more chance to someone who keeps showing the same pattern, one more hour wasted on something that does not deserve your life, one more conversation where you speak too much because silence feels uncomfortable. Slowly, those moments become your identity. Stoicism brings you back to an inner code, not a code based on ego, pride, or revenge, but on dignity. A code that says, I will not betray myself to be liked. I will not compete for attention. I will not stay where respect has disappeared. I will not waste my time as if life is endless. I will not cheapen my voice by speaking without purpose. When you live by a code like that, you become harder to move. The first lesson taught you to stop explaining yourself to everyone. That protects your authority. The second taught you not to compete for attention. That protects your dignity. The third taught you to walk away when respect is no longer on the table. That protects your peace. The fourth taught you to guard your time. That protects your life. The fifth taught you to speak less and mean more. That protects your presence. Together, these are not separate tricks. They are one way of living. They form a person who no longer needs the world to constantly confirm his value. A person who can move with clarity because his actions are not controlled by the fear of rejection. A person who can remain silent because he no longer confuses noise with power. A person who can leave because he knows that not every place deserves his loyalty. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that power over the mind matters more than power over outside events. You cannot control whether people approve of you. You cannot control whether they notice your worth. You cannot control whether they respect your silence, your boundaries, or your direction. But you can control whether you lower yourself in response to their opinion. This is where self-respect becomes practical. It is not a feeling you wait for. It is a standard you practice. You practice it when you do not over-explain. You practice it when you refuse to chase. You practice it when you walk away without drama. You practice it when you say no to what wastes your life. You practice it when you choose silence instead of trying to prove your importance to people who are not listening. At first, this may feel uncomfortable. If you're used to pleasing people, self-respect may feel like guilt. If you are used to explaining everything, silence may feel rude. If you are used to chasing attention, stillness may feel like loss. If you are used to being endlessly available, boundaries may feel selfish. But discomfort does not always mean something is wrong. Sometimes discomfort is the feeling of your dignity returning. The people around you may also react. Some will respect the new standard. Some will resist it. Some will call you different, distant, difficult, or proud. But understand this clearly. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries may not celebrate your self-respect. That does not mean you're wrong. It means the old version of you was easier for them to use. The Stoic does not change his code every time someone dislikes it. He listens to wisdom, but he does not bow to manipulation. He can receive honest correction, but he does not surrender his standards to emotional pressure. He can be humble without becoming small. He can be kind without becoming weak. He can be generous without becoming available for disrespect. This is the balance. Never lowering yourself does not mean looking down on others. It means no longer looking down on yourself. It means you stop making yourself smaller so people can feel bigger. You stop softening your truth so others can avoid discomfort. You stop breaking your own peace to keep relationships that only survive when you have no limits. A person with an inner code does not need to announce it every day. You see it in how he moves. He is not desperate to be included. He is not quick to defend every misunderstanding. He is not careless with time, attention, or speech. He does not beg to be chosen. He does not cling to rooms where his soul keeps shrinking. His life quietly says, I know what I am worth. And that kind of person becomes important in the deepest sense. Not because everyone admires him, not because he is loud, not because he controls others, but because he is no longer controlled by the need to be approved by others. He has become important to himself first, and that changes the way the world meets him. So, Ask yourself, what is my code? What will I no longer trade for approval? What behavior will I no longer tolerate? What explanations will I stop giving? What attention will I stop chasing? What time will I finally protect? What silence will I finally honor? Write that code inside yourself, then live by it quietly. You do not need to convince the world that you have changed. Let your choices show it. Let your boundaries show it. Let your calm show it. Let your absence from the wrong places show it. And in the next part, we will go deeper into what happens when you finally stop lowering yourself, how the world may react, how your relationships may shift, and why quiet respect often begins the moment you stop begging for it. When you finally stop lowering yourself, the first thing that changes is not the world. It is the way you stand inside yourself. You no longer enter every room wondering how to be accepted. You no longer measure your worth by how much attention you receive. You no longer rush to explain, chase, stay, give, speak, and perform just to prove that you matter. Something inside you becomes still, and that stillness is the beginning of quiet respect. But understand this, not everyone will like your new standard. Some people were comfortable with the version of you that over-explained, overgave, overextended, and stayed silent to avoid conflict. They may call you distant when you become selective. They may call you arrogant when you stop chasing. They may call you cold when you walk away from disrespect. But often, what they really mean is this: you are no longer easy to control. That is where your growth will be tested. It is easy to speak about self-respect when no one challenges it. It is harder when someone gets upset because you said no. It is harder when old relationships become uncomfortable because you no longer play the same role. It is harder when your silence is misunderstood, your boundaries are questioned, and your absence is called betrayal. But the Stoic does not abandon his principles just because others dislike the consequences. Marcus Aurelius understood that other people's judgments are outside your control. What remains inside your control is your conduct, your patience, your clarity, your refusal to become bitter, your ability to hold a standard without turning cruel. You do not need to punish people for not understanding your growth. You simply continue living it. When you stop lowering yourself, some relationships will naturally fall away, not because you hate anyone, but because the old connection was built on an old version of you. It depended on your silence, your availability, your lack of boundaries, your willingness to tolerate less than you deserve. Once you change the foundation, some people will have nothing solid left to stand on with you. Let that reveal what was real. The people who respect you will adjust. They may need time, but they will honor your growth. They will not require you to shrink so they can feel comfortable. They will not punish you for protecting your peace. But the people who only benefited from your self-betrayal will resist. They will miss the access, not the relationship. They will miss the convenience, not the connection. This is why you must be willing to be misunderstood. Epictetus taught that if you want to improve, you must be willing to appear foolish to those who do not understand the path. In your life, that may mean letting people think you are too quiet, too serious, too selective, too different. Let them think it. Your responsibility is not to manage every opinion. Your responsibility is to live with integrity. Quiet respect begins when people sense that your self-worth is no longer available for negotiation. You do not have to announce it. They feel it in your restraint. They feel it in your time. They feel it in your calm no. They feel it when you stop entering pointless arguments. They feel it when you leave places that once would have trapped you. They feel it when your words become fewer, but stronger. This kind of respect is different from attention. Attention may come from being loud, available, dramatic, or entertaining. Respect comes from consistency. Respect comes from the way you carry yourself when no one is clapping. Respect comes from refusing to betray your values for temporary approval. Respect comes when people realize your presence is not something they can use carelessly. And even if no one else notices, you will notice. That matters most. You will feel lighter because you are no longer dragging the weight of false obligations. You will feel clearer because you are no longer explaining your life to people who'd never asked in good faith. You will feel stronger because every boundary you keep becomes proof that you can trust yourself. This is where inner importance is formed, not by making others feel small, but by refusing to make yourself small. not by demanding respect with noise, but by living in a way that makes disrespect lose access to you, not by trying to be above people, but by no longer placing yourself beneath the need to be liked. The world may still test you. Someone may try to pull you back into old patterns. Someone may offer small attention to see if you will chase again. Someone may disrespect your time to see if you will still say yes. Someone may provoke you to see if you will waste your words. These tests are not interruptions to your growth. They are opportunities to prove that the new standard is real. So do not rush to explain your change. Live it. Do not argue with people who preferred the old version of you. Let your consistency answer them. Do not chase those who only value you when you are convenient. Let your absence teach what your words could not. Do not speak endlessly to prove your worth. Let your silence carry the weight of self-command. When you stop lowering yourself, life becomes quieter, but stronger. Your circle may become smaller, but cleaner. Your time may become more protected, but more meaningful. Your words may become fewer, but more powerful. Your peace may become less dependent on others and more rooted in your own character. That is the reward. You begin to belong to yourself again. And once you belong to yourself, approval loses its grip. Rejection loses its terror. Disrespect loses its access. You no longer need to be seen by everyone because you have finally stopped abandoning yourself. And in the final part, we will bring everything together. Never lowering yourself again is not about pride. It is about living by a code that protects your dignity, your peace, and the life you were given. Never lowering yourself again is not about pride. It is not about acting superior, becoming untouchable, or looking down on others. It is about refusing to abandon your own dignity for approval, comfort, attention, or fear. It is the quiet decision that your self-respect is no longer something you trade away just to be liked, included, chosen, or understood. Most people do not lose themselves all at once. They lose themselves through small compromises. One unnecessary explanation, one chase for attention, one more stay in a place that keeps draining them, one more hour wasted on things that do not matter, one more conversation where they speak too much, reveal too much, or defend too much because silence feels uncomfortable. Slowly, the pattern becomes normal, and what becomes normal eventually becomes identity. Stoicism brings you back to the only place where real strength begins, your own character. You cannot control how others judge you. You cannot control whether they approve of your choices. You cannot control whether they recognize your value, respect your time, or understand your silence. But you can control whether you lower yourself in response. You can control your standards. You can control your conduct. You can control the code you choose to live by. That code is simple. Do not explain your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. Do not compete for attention from people who make you feel invisible. Do not stay where disrespect has become a pattern. Do not spend your time as if life is endless. Do not cheapen your words by speaking without purpose. These are not rules for becoming cold. They are practices for becoming whole. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that power over the mind matters more than power over outside events. That is the heart of this lesson. The world may test you. People may question your boundaries. Some may call you distant when you become selective. Some may call you arrogant when you stop chasing. Some may call you difficult when you stop tolerating what once made you small. Let them. Their discomfort is not always proof that you are wrong. Sometimes it is proof that the old version of you was easier to use. The person who respects himself does not need to make a speech about it. You see it in how he moves. He does not beg to be included. He does not explain every decision. He does not waste his life on people who only remember him when they need something. He does not give his best energy to rooms where his presence is treated like an option. He does not speak just to fill silence. His life quietly says, "My worth is not negotiable." This kind of strength is built through practice. The first time you stop over-explaining, it may feel uncomfortable. The first time you stop chasing someone's attention, it may feel like loss. The first time you walk away, you may feel guilt. The first time you protect your time, People may complain. The first time you speak less, silence may feel heavy. But stay with it. Discomfort is often the sound of an old weakness dying. Over time, your life becomes cleaner. Your relationships become more honest. Your time becomes more valuable. Your words carry more weight. Your presence becomes calmer because you are no longer trying to prove your importance to everyone around you. You stop asking the world to tell you who you are. You begin living as someone who already knows. This is what it means to be important in the Stoic sense. Not famous, not loud, not admired by everyone. Important to yourself. Important enough to protect your peace. Important enough to keep your standards. Important enough to walk away from what lowers you. Important enough to use your life with intention. Important enough to stop begging for respect and start living in a way that makes disrespect lose access to you. Hey, so from this day forward, choose differently. When you feel the urge to explain too much, pause. When you feel the urge to chase attention, return to your purpose. When respect disappears, leave with dignity. When something asks for your time, ask if it deserves a piece of your life. When you speak, let your words be true, necessary, and aligned with the person you are becoming. You do not need to become hard to become strong. You do not need to become loud to be respected. You do not need to become cruel to protect yourself. You only need to become loyal to your own dignity. That loyalty will change how you walk, how you speak, how you choose, and how you allow others to approach your life. Never lower yourself again. Not for approval, not for attention, not for fear of being misunderstood, not for a place in someone's life where your worth must be constantly proven. Stand in your own code. Guard your time. Speak with purpose. Walk away when peace is no longer present. Let your actions carry the weight of your self-respect. If this reflection helped you, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom inspired by Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, and leave this in the comments as a promise to yourself. I will never lower myself again.